Please join me in welcoming Guy Kawasaki.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here in London. A few years ago, during the dot-com days, if you can remember that far backwards, my family and I lived here in Mayfair for about 6 weeks, and I have to tell you, I was ready to move. I could move to London in a second. I would love to live here. And you'll see some of my pictures to show you how much I love London. A little bit about my background. I worked for Apple twice in my life, from 1983 to 1987. I was Apple's evangelist, so my job was to make sure there was a lot of Mac software and hardware products. How many of you use Macs in this room? Wow. This is my kind of country. Yeah. So after working at Apple in the Mac division, well, let me tell you more about the Mac division. The Mac division was arguably the largest collection of egomaniacs in the history of America, and so you realize that's saying a lot. That record was broken recently by Google, but we held the record for a good 25 years. Probably Groupon's going to break that record, but it's a different story. Because we worked for Steve, we had very special rules: unlimited supplies of fresh orange juice at $2 a bottle. We could fly first class for any flight over 2 hours, and my interpretation of that rule was that 2 hours begins at the moment you leave your apartment. So I flew first class everywhere. And we had a great time. We were trying to change the world, and I think we did change the world. But we were kind of egomaniacs and bad people. For example, back then the company had the Apple II division, which was making all the money, and the Macintosh division, which was spending all the money. And so if you looked at the Apple P&L back then, the P was Apple II and the L was Macintosh. But we would not let Apple II division people into our building. So if you can imagine working for a company where one part of the company is not allowed into the building of another part of the company, and then if you thought about it for a second, the people who are not being allowed into that Macintosh building really were paying for that building. So that upset them to no end, and they came up with this great joke about us, which is how many Macintosh division employees does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is one. The Macintosh division employee holds up the light bulb and expects the universe to revolve around him. Because there's mostly Macintosh people in this room, I'll tell you the Microsoft version of this joke, which is how many Microsoft employees does it take to screw in a light bulb? The answer to that is none, because Steve Ballmer has declared darkness the new standard. After Apple, I started a software company or two. I became a writer and a speaker. I returned to Apple in 1995 when Apple was supposed to die again, and I worked as Apple's Chief Evangelist as an Apple Fellow. And then I left that to start Garage.com, which is where I still am. It's Garage Technology Ventures. It's now an early-stage venture capital firm. Along the way, in my 30 years in technology and jewelry, by the way, I started in the jewelry business, I've always had to enchant people and evangelize people. So I wrote this book so that I could pass on my knowledge of how to evangelize and enchant people to the next generation and the next generation after that, so that you can create great products and services and get people to use it and love it and continue to use it and love it, and then change the world. So that's the motivation here. I don't know about many speakers in technology in the UK, but I'll tell you that there's two salient points of tech speakers in America. First, they pretty much all suck, and second, they go long. That's a bad combination, you know. If you suck and you go short, okay. If you're great and you go long, that's okay. But if you suck and you go long, it's like being stupid and arrogant, you know. So that's not a good combination. So what I've done is I always use the top 10 format, so that just in case you think I suck, you know approximately how much longer I'll suck, because there will be 10 points in this speech, okay? So, but the name of this speech is Enchantment. It's based on this book I have called Enchantment, and it is the art of changing hearts, minds, and actions. But before I show you my presentation and do my presentation, I just want to show you some pictures I took today. I've been in London for like 30 hours. And I've done a lot already. So, first of all, you see this butterfly. Does somebody have a book? I don't even have a book. You hold up the book. You just hold up the book. That butterfly is on the cover. And so this is the butterfly. It's an origami butterfly. I'm going to tell you the whole story at the end of the speech. But anyway, so I kind of like this thought of carrying this butterfly around the world wherever I go, and I take pictures wherever I go, and then I post it to Facebook. So this is my first picture. This guy's thinking, what the hell is this crazy American? Like, why do I have to do this? I'd rather be in Afghanistan fighting bad guys than, guarding this thing. Jeez. Okay, so that's my first picture. And then you have to go to the London Eye. So this is the butterfly on the London Eye. And then right below the London Eye, there's this really funny guy. This has nothing to do with anything except this is my daughter, and this guy, he's like your James Bond guy or something, and people come up to him, and he puts them in poses and like this, and then you take pictures with him, and that's my daughter. And this is a very funny guy. This is like entrepreneurship. He has nothing, right? Really. He has no technology, no proven management team, no funding, nothing. But he's raising money every day. It costs like £2 to do that. So that's my kind of guy. And then, one of the high points is, of course, we went in 10 Downing Street, right? Which is, I've been in 10 Downing. I've never been in the White House. So maybe Barack will invite me now. Although he's busy bombing people. So that's a whole nother thing. I'll tell you something. Bombing people is not a way to enchant them. Just FYI. And then I have to show you, it's always dangerous when somebody from outside the country tells you one of their favorite places because it could reduce my credibility with you, right, if I pick some lousy place. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite places to go in London, and I make it a point to go every time. In fact, I might go tonight again. I just love Wagamama. I got to tell you. Really. I love Wagamama. Like, whenever I travel to a city, I'm there, like this kind of trip, 3 days. And of 3 days, I would eat in Wagamama 3 times. I really love Wagamama. And before, when I was here 10 or 15 years ago, there were only like 3. There was one in Selfridges, one near Harrods, and one more someplace else. But now, using my iPhone, you type in Wagamama, and they're like everywhere. So I was really happy. This is one of my happiest moments in London is eating. I'm an easy person to please. And I have to tell you one more place I love, and I hope it's still true, but the Grosvenor House has arguably the best tuna sandwiches in the world. I hope they still make tuna sandwiches there. I may have to go all the way over there and try that. Anybody live near the Grosvenor House? I love that place. Anyway, so now you get this perspective on your city from somebody from America thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Anyway, so that's my Wagamama picture. So let's get into the topic of enchantment. So the first thing you need to do to really be an enchanting person is you have to be likable. Now, ask yourself, have you ever been enchanted by someone you didn't like? Probably not. And so the foundation of enchantment is that you are likable. And the foundation of being likable is a good smile. This is not a good smile. This is what's called the Pan Am smile. I think many of you are too young to even know what Pan Am was. How many don't know what Pan Am was? You don't know? You never heard of Pan Am before? Oh my God. Pan Am was this airline. You never heard of Pan Am? Wow. Have you heard of typewriters? How about MS-DOS? Yeah? So you're not that young. Okay, so Pan Am was an airline, and it's now gone. They had flight attendants, or it had flight attendants, and truly that flight attendant was not happy to see those people. I mean, this is kind of a fake smile, only using her jaw. If you want to have a great smile, you need to make what's called a Duchenne Smile. And the Duchenne Smile uses both the eyes and the jaw. So if you want to have a great smile, what I'm trying to tell you is you need to have crow's feet. Crow's feet. Is crow's feet a... Yeah? Okay. Crow's feet is good. You want crow's feet. So just think of the money you saved already tonight, right? No more Botox. No more plastic surgery. You want crow's feet. The better your crow's feet, the deeper your crow's feet, the better your smile. This is a woman named Mary Smith. She is a Facebook expert. And so she's a friend of mine, and I called her up, and I said, Mary, I have good news for you and bad news for you. The good news is you're in my Enchantment speech. This means thousands of people will learn about you because I'll speak about you all the time. And the bad news is that you're in my speech because you have really, really pronounced crow's feet. So luckily, she's a good person, took it for the spirit I meant it, and here we go. So you want a Duchenne smile, okay? Eyes and jaw. Next thing, you need to dress for a tie, no pun intended. There's three theories of dressing. One, you can underdress. So if you knew your audience was going to be in business attire, you show up in t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers because, I don't know, you're so powerful you can get away with anything. You can also overdress. This means that you know how the audience is going to dress, but you're going to dress way above them because you want to, impress them, show them you have more money, something like that. This also doesn't work. What you want to dress is roughly equally as peers. So that's the second step in likability. The third step in likability is from your country. This is from the University of Manchester. This is the mathematical formula for the perfect handshake. It has to do with eye contact, length, temperature of the hand, wetness or lack of wetness of the hand, smoothness of the hand, the distance between you and the other person, how much vigor you put into your handshake, and how long your handshake lasts. This is the perfect handshake. You need to have a good handshake to be likable. You need to have a good smile. You need to dress equally. I am so glad to tell you that this is from the University of Manchester. This is because no American tax dollars were wasted. Created this mathematics. We're using our tax dollars for Tomahawk and cruise missiles. You guys can make the perfect handshake. The second thing is to achieve trustworthiness, because you can be likable, but not trustworthy. A very good example of this is celebrities. You can like a celebrity, but not trust the celebrity. At an extreme, using an American example, you could like Charlie Sheen, but not trust Charlie Sheen, for example. So let's talk about how you achieve trustworthiness. First of all, it is not a chicken or egg question. There is a definite order. You have to trust others before they will trust you. You cannot have the attitude that, well, if people trust me, then I'll trust them. You have to have the burden upon yourself. The onus is upon yourself to trust others first. This is 3 examples. Amazon trusts people so much that you can buy an ebook and you have up to 5 days to return it. Many of us could read a book in 5 days. Zappos is an American company that sells shoes online. Zappos, if someone told me Zappos' business model at the start of Zappos, I would have told them they're crazy, because Zappos basically is in the business of convincing women to buy shoes without trying them on. And I would have said that would be impossible. But Zappos has created such a trustworthy image, and part of that is because they allow you to return shoes, and you can return shoes and they will pay the shipping. So it costs you absolutely nothing if you don't like the shoe. They pay shipping both ways. And the third example from the United States is Nordstrom, the most trustworthy retailer in America, probably. These are 3 organizations that trusted their customers, and therefore their customers trusted them. But that was the sequence of events. The second way to become trustworthy is to become a baker, not an eater. An eater sees a pie and says, limited pie. I have to get as big a slice of the pie as possible. A baker sees a pie and says, I'll bake a bigger pie, or I'll bake more pies. Bakers believe that the world is not a zero-sum game. Bakers believe that you can bake more pies and you can bake bigger pies and everybody can win. Those are the trustworthy people. And the third way to become trustworthy is to default to yes. That is, when you meet people, you should always be thinking how you can help people. If they ask you something, you will say yes. In an event like this, if you want to become a great networker, a great schmoozer, always be asking yourself, how can I help the other person? If you default to yes, if you're baking pies, not just eating pies, and you will become this very trustworthy person. So we have likability and trustworthy. The third thing is to just get ready. Your purpose, the quality of your product or your service. And I think that this is a very good acronym to describe what's a great product or service. It's called DICE. D is for depth. It means that your product or service has lots of features, lots of functionality. It's not simplistic. The I stands for intelligent. Intelligent means that when people look at your product or service, they say to themselves, or maybe to their friends, this company really understands my pain. This company understands what I needed. They probably understood it better than I did, and they came up with the solution. It's an intelligent product. I'll give you an example. I really like cars, and I want to buy a car, a specific car, a Ford Mustang. A Ford Mustang, in fact, there's a specific Ford Mustang, which is a Shelby GT500 Force Mustang. It goes 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 4.1 seconds. 550 horsepower. It's the opposite of a Prius, if you will. So this is a really badass Mustang. And I have two teenage sons, one 15 and one 17. One has a permit and one is one is in the permit process and one has a license. So I know inevitably it might be 2 years down the road, but at some point they're going to drive that car. And it would be socially irresponsible for me to hand the keys to a car that's 550 horsepower to teenage boys. However, Ford, which makes Mustang, has a very interesting, intelligent product called the Mikey. And what the Mikey enables you to do is program the top speed of a car into the key. So I could give the key to the car to my sons, and it could be programmed to 55 miles an hour, top speed. It doesn't control how fast or how long it takes to get to 55, but it will control that you cannot go beyond 55. I think that's a very intelligent product, limiting the top speed of a car. The third quality is completeness. Great products, great services are complete. It's the documentation, it's the online support, it's the conferences, it's the VARs, it's the dealers, it's the plugins, it's all that totality of a situation. It's not just the software. Great products are also empowering. They make you feel more productive, more creative. They extend your personality. They extend your capabilities. And finally, great products are elegant. Someone cared about the user interface. This audience, which is 95% Macintosh, we don't need to worry about that. You understand elegance. So the test for getting ready is to prepare something that's dicey, something that's deep, intelligent, complete, empowering, and elegant. The next thing to do is to be able to describe this thing in a very short, sweet, and swallowable way. This is an ad that was made for the Metro system of New York right after 9/11, and all it says is, if you see something, say something. It's like loose lips sink ships. You want a 2 or 3 or 4 word description of your product or service. Why does it exist? Think in terms of a mantra, not in terms of a mission statement. Do you make mission statements around here? No? How many of you work for an organization with a mission statement? Yeah, you guys don't even want to raise your hands. Let's talk about mission statements for a while. In America, the way we make mission statements, and I hope it's not how you make them here. In America, the way we make mission statements is a 2-day offsite. Okay? This offsite is typically at a hotel with a golf course because there's a very high correlation between playing golf and making mission statements. So it's a 2-day offsite, and you bring in a cross-functional team of the highest, most senior people in the organization. And you also bring in a meeting facilitator. You bring in a meeting facilitator who's not an employee because, quite frankly, if you had leadership that could make the team work together, you wouldn't need the offsite. So by definition, if you need the offsite, you probably don't have good management, so you need to bring in an external person to lead this exercise. So you form these cross-functional teams, and the first day you do these outdoor exercises. You climb ropes together, you fall into each other's arms. You're building this kumbaya spirit with the people you can't stand in your company. The second day, you're in a room like this, and there's a pad of paper, and Moonbeam, who's the meeting facilitator, is going to walk you through the process. Moonbeam, by the way, has a dual-track career. She is not only an executive coach, she's also a Lamaze instructor, because the process of putting out a mission statement is just like pushing out a baby. Very similar process. So Lamaze instructor and an executive coach. And you create this mission statement that's going to be good for the shareholders, the employees, the customers. And if you're in Palo Alto, you have to be really politically correct, so you also make it good for the whales and the dolphins. And you come up with some 60-word mission statement that nobody cares about, nobody can remember. I think you should make something short, sweet, and swallowable instead. 2 or 3 words, okay? And the next thing you do is you conduct what's called a PreMortem as opposed to a postmortem. A postmortem you do after death. You try to analyze why your product failed. A PreMortem, the way you do it is this. You assemble the team, and you tell the team, okay, let's pretend our product failed. Now, everybody come up with all the reasons you can think of why the product failed. And then let's go through that list of reasons and eliminate those reasons so that the product doesn't fail and we never have to do a postmortem. Very, very useful exercise. Now, you might ask, well, why don't you just ask for feedback? Does anybody have any problems? The problem with asking that question is, in most organizations, if you ask that question, people are hesitant to speak up. Because if the software person says the marketing sucks and the marketing person says the software sucks, then you start creating enemies. And if you say something negative in a meeting like that, you'll be seen as a naysayer and a late adopter and someone who's not a team player. And so negativity in that kind of situation is very dangerous. And people realize this, so they don't say anything. And since you don't say anything, nobody understands the problem, and then you die, and then you have a postmortem. So the whole point is to eliminate a postmortem, and the way to do this is with a premortem, by saying, let's just pretend it failed. Why did it fail? The next step is to actually launch this product. First, tell a story. Tell a story. Why did you create this product or service? You're two people in a garage or in a muse, and you said there must be a better way, that it can't be that the only people who could use computers have to work for universities and governments and large organizations. There had to be a better way. We should make a personal computer. Or there had to be a better way to search the internet. Or there had to be a better way to share video. Or there had to be a way for my girlfriend to sell Pez dispensers on the internet. So I started eBay. That's a made-up story, but it's a great story nonetheless. Tell a story. Don't use acronyms. Don't talk about the fifth paradigm in personal computing, how you have a patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting kind of piece of crap. Because that's what most people say. Most people say. They talk about shifting paradigms. If you use the word revolutionary more than twice in a presentation, you lost the audience. Very few things are revolutionary. Tell your story. Tell your story. How, your mother got cancer, so you dedicated your life to fighting cancer. Tell some story. Okay? The next thing is you need to plant many seeds. There are two theories of marketing. Marketing 1.0 was they're readily identifiable A-listers, powerful journalists and reporters and analysts. You sucked up to these A-listers. You sucked up to them because A, they were easy to identify. And the thinking was if you sucked up to them and they liked your product or service, they would tell the great unwashed masses that this is what you should use. And the great unwashed masses, being the great unwashed mass that there is, would listen to you and decide that you were right and sheep go and use whatever. So if they told you to use 1, 2, 3, you use 1, 2, 3. They tell you to use MS-DOS, you use MS-DOS, okay? That was the old days. In the old days, you found these people who worked for the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, Telegraph, whatever. You found these A-listers. You sucked up to them. If you didn't want to do the sucking up, you hired a PR firm to do the sucking up for you, okay? That's marketing 1.0. I think in marketing 2.0, because of Twitter and Facebook and blogs, the world has been inverted, or at least flattened. And now you really don't know who the key influencers are. And yes, you should get those publications to write about your product or service. But fundamentally, what's going to make your product or service successful is because someone you never heard of and never could identify loved your product and told other people that he or she loved the product. So I use this term, generic term for this unknown person, the nobody, who is now a somebody. I call it Lonely Boy 15. Lonely Boy 15 is out there in the world. You don't even know who he is, and he loves your product. So Lonely Boy 15 tells his 50 followers on Twitter that he loves your product and shows it to people. And if you have enough Lonely Boy 15s, one day you'll wake up and you'll be a Twitter or a Facebook. Okay? I'm not saying you should ignore the A-listers, but I'm saying you should not just focus on the A-listers. This means you need to plant many seeds. You didn't have to plant as many seeds before if you focus on only the A-listers because there are only 100 influential people in that list. But if you want to plant many seeds, you have to really put it out there. Finding Lonely Boy 15 is arguably easier because there's not these barriers to the Wall Street Journal. It's also harder because he's harder to find. Plant many seeds. When this book went out, usually a business book publisher sends out 200 copies of the book to get reviewed. I sent out 1,600. I sent out 8 times the normal amount for a business book. And so today, if you looked, and I have a page where I've collated them all, there are 300 reviews of this book 3 weeks after it's out, which is some kind of record. And I don't mean they're reviewed by business book reviewers. There's reviews from dog trainers at a dog training blog. There's a review at a vegetarian blog. There's a review from an esthetician who usually writes about makeup and mascara and lipstick, and she's writing about Enchantment. And so I think that is just great. Plant many seeds. The next step is to use the salient points. On the left side, you will see the kind of technical term that the industry likes to use. On the right side you'll see what people really care about, what really matters. So is it miles per gallon or is it yearly fuel costs? People really care about yearly fuel costs. Is it the dollars that are donated to a cause or the months of food that your donation can provide for a group of people who need food? Really, the salient point is not number of dollars, number of euros, number of pounds. It is how long can $20 feed a family? Next salient point, gigabytes or number of songs, right? Do people wake up in the morning saying, oh, if I only had a 64 gigabyte MP3 player, I would really be happy? They don't think in terms of gigabytes. They think in terms of number of songs. Use salient points. Use the kind of points on the right side, not the left side. The fifth thing is to overcome resistance. This is one example. This is a game, but really a toy from Nintendo. It came out in the mid-'70s. In the mid-'70s, believe it or not, electronic games was a tarnished market, so much so that retailers did not want to stock electronic games. Nintendo figured out that this was a problem, so it bundled a cheap little robot with the family computer system. Now it did not call this a game anymore, it called this a toy, because retailers will always stock a toy. And then it positioned it further as an educational toy. So now kids would ask their parents for the educational toy robot, where they're going to learn about robotics at Christmas. That's how it overcame resistance to selling a game. The next way you can overcome resistance is to provide social proof. Positive social proof. When the iPod came out, it was pretty obvious when somebody had an iPod because their earbuds were white. Most earbuds prior to that were black. So you saw a lot of white earbuds. You figured out, white earbud equals iPod. Lots of white earbuds. iPod must be good. I'll buy an iPod. Then when you bought an iPod, guess what? There's another set of white earbuds in the world. So you provided social proof. And I think this is one of the most powerful things that Apple did for the success of iPod. I don't think it planned it either. I don't think Steve Jobs said, we have to put a white earbud because people will see lots of white earbuds and conclude there's lots of iPods. This proves, well, another thing, it may be better to be lucky than smart, but provide social proof. Now, I also give you an example of negative social proof. There was a study done in Arizona by Robert Cialdini, who's a great, great hero of mine. He's a social psychologist. And his group wanted to test the effect of signage on stealing petrified wood from the Petrified Forest Park in Arizona. So apparently tourists were stealing too many samples of petrified wood, so they wanted to come up with a way to reduce this. So there were three conditions. One is no sign. Second is sign with one person stealing petrified wood, but the sign saying don't steal it. Third condition was sign saying don't steal petrified wood, but the sign had many people stealing petrified wood. So the most effective condition was one person on the sign, don't steal. The second most effective was no sign at all. The worst in effectiveness was a sign that showed multiple people stealing petrified wood, still saying not to steal petrified wood. The thinking is that people read the sign that said, don't steal petrified wood, but they saw the sign with lots of people stealing petrified wood, so it must be okay, even though the sign said not to steal petrified wood. That's negative social proof. Next thing you need to do is find a bright spot. Vietnam had a really big problem with malnutrition of its kids, and one person went to Vietnam and studied the situation and found out there was a bright spot. The bright spot is that some families had much healthier kids, even adjusted for income. They were much healthier. And the answer to his question was, why are they healthier? Is because those mothers and those families put in crabs and shrimps from the rice paddies into the meal. That supplement of protein fundamentally changed the diets of some families. This was the bright spot in all the malnutrition in Vietnam. Now, I'll give you another more technical example. In the 80s, Apple was doing very poorly in the computer business. We thought we had a spreadsheet database and word processing machine. We were wrong. We were 0 for 3 there. And there was one bright spot, however, with Macintosh, and it was Aldous PageMaker creating a field of flowers called desktop publishing. Desktop publishing saved Apple computer. If it wasn't for desktop publishing, there would be no Apple today. And then we would all have phones with a battery that lasted for more than a day. We'd have phones with real keyboards. In America, we'd have phones on good data networks. It would be a different world. It would be a different world. All this PageMaker was a gift from God to Apple Computer. Don't kid yourself. And there is a God. I believe there is a God because there is no other explanation for Apple's continued survival than a benevolent God. Point here is find a bright spot. You will encounter resistance. In fact, the more innovative your product or service, the more resistance you'll encounter. You would think that if you had something really great, the world would be the path to your door. It's not true. In fact, the greater your product or service, the more resistance you will encounter. The last step is to enchant all the influencers. This is a family example. I'll also tell you the business example. As a venture capitalist, many entrepreneurs come up to us and say, could you introduce us to the CEO, CIO, CTO, CXO of some company? Introduce us to Jeff Bezos. Or introduce me to Richard Branson because, the two of us in a garage without any funding, we have this new server technology that if you just introduce me to Jeff Bezos of Amazon, I'm sure he'll throw out all the servers he has in Amazon and put our new thing in, even though we don't even have funding yet, right? So needless to say, we never do that. But I'll tell you another reason why we never do it, which is because, I don't know about here, but in America, the higher you go in an organization, the thinner the air. And the thinner the air, if you think about it, the more difficult it is to support intelligent life. So, as you go higher and higher in most American organizations, you're dealing with dumber and dumber people because the air is getting thinner. So if you really want to enchant the right people, you need to enchant people at the middle and the bottoms because those are the people who really do the work. They're the smart people. They're the ones on the firing line. In a family situation, sort of similar. You think that you want to influence this family. Most people say, oh, go after the dad, because he's the one who's making most of the money in the family. You would be very wrong. In most families, it's actually the mom that influences all the decisions. In this kind of family, it could be the sister-in-law. In an Asian family, it could be the grandfather, all right? But I'll tell you personally, in my family, it's the daughter. The daughter. If you enchant my daughter, you got me. Really. I'll do anything to make my daughter happy. So that's an issue I hear we share. So, don't assume it's the CEO, CIO, CTO, CXO. Don't assume it's the dad. Don't even assume it's the mom. It might be the kid. Now, I'm going to show you an amazing segue. If you are a good speaker, you never go off track. But if you're a great speaker, you can go off track and come back. And I'm going to show you this. So, I'm going to recommend to you that you all see the movie Never Say Never, the Justin Bieber movie. You may think I'm nuts. Now, how many of you have seen that movie already and are willing to admit it? No, not the concert, the movie. I've seen both, actually. Yeah. Okay, none of you have seen Never Say Never. Is it here yet? It's not here yet? Okay. Well, then you have a reason. I promise you, when it gets here, if it gets here, go see the movie. Trust me. You might not like Justin Bieber as a musician, but trust me, you will learn more about marketing from watching that movie than any movie I have seen. Now let me tell you why. So first of all, you'll see how hard Justin Bieber works. In this movie, he's on an 86-city tour. 86 cities. People in technology, if we go to 3 cities and we make 3 speeches, we're all tired. We can't handle it. We need our own personal assistant. We need an entourage. We need to specify, certain sky blue color M&Ms are in the green room, and We have to have a certain kind of towel, and our room at the Savoy has to face, one way, not the other way. We have to have a clear view of the London Eye. He's on an 86-city tour in a bus. If you ever want to see a good relationship modeled for mentorship, you should watch how his vocal coach coaches him. Very interesting. His very interesting marketing. When at concerts, he sends out people from his team, and they go into the parking lot and they find girls who do not have tickets for the concert, and they give them tickets. And you should see the pure joy that brings to those girls. And if you think about it, do any of us work for an organization that dominates the market segment that we want the way Justin Bieber dominates the 9 to 15-year-old girl segment? I don't think so. Anybody here work for a company that dominates a segment the way Justin Bieber dominates his segment? I don't think so. There is a lot to learn about marketing. I'll tell you what, when the movie gets here, if you go see the movie and you don't learn anything about marketing, I will give you the money back. It's truly, and if you have a daughter, it's a twofer if you're a daughter, because your daughter will just worship you for taking her to the movie, and you'll learn about marketing. Arguably, you can deduct your ticket. This is a legitimate business expense. So, enchant all the influencers. The next thing, we're going to make another amazing segue. We're going to go from Justin Bieber to the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead is a group that has endured for about 6 decades now. They're like 3rd, 4th generation Grateful Dead fans. One of the ways it has endured is because, believe it or not, at its concerts, it has a special area set aside for tapers. Not that anybody uses tape anymore. And it enables, and in fact, it encourages people to tape the concert and then share the music. Have you ever heard of another group that has a place to help you pirate the music at a concert and then share it? Unheard of, right? This is one of the ways the Grateful Dead endures, because it makes more evangelists. It encourages people who love its music to share its music. The next thing is, don't rely on money to enchant people. Money is typically the enemy of enchantment. If you are receiving the enchantment from someone who's paid to do the enchanting, you will logically ask the question, does this person really believe in this thing, or is this person simply on commission or an affiliate? If you are the person doing the enchanting, if you have a conscience, you would ask yourself, am I doing it because I truly believe in this product, or because I am on commission and an affiliate? Don't rely on money. Rely on passion, rely on likability and trustworthiness and diciness, but do not rely on money. Second thing is, invoke reciprocation. This is a carpet that depicts the war between Ethiopia and Italy. Italy invaded Ethiopia in the 1930s. When Italy invaded Ethiopia, people of Mexico donated money to help the Ethiopians fight the Italians. Some 90 years later, when Mexico had a horrific earthquake, the people of Ethiopia, even though they were in the midst of a famine, collected money and sent money back to Mexico, because it felt such a feeling of reciprocation that the Mexicans helped us during the war with the Italians, so now the Mexicans have problems, we need to help them back. We need to reciprocate. Another great example of this occurred right after 9/11. The first data point is that right after the Civil War, the people of New York donated money to buy a fire truck for the people of Charleston, South Carolina. They heard that the people of Charleston were using a bucket brigade to fight fires. The first fire truck was on a boat that sank, so the people of New York actually had to buy a second fire truck. Okay, fast forward 150 some odd years, and there's 9/11. The people of Charleston donated $500,000 so that they could buy the people of New York a fire truck. It's because 150 years earlier, they vowed that when the people of New York bought them a fire truck, if the people of New York ever needed their help, the people of Charleston would reciprocate and buy them a fire truck. 150 years later. Now, I'm going to give you two power tips about reciprocation. First, they come from Robert Cialdini, who has this influence at work consultancy, who's also in London. They have Steve Martin here, runs it here. So 2 power tips. First, when you do something for somebody, and if they are trustworthy and likable, they will at least thank you. Okay? Now, what happens after they thank you? So, if they thank you, usually you would say, you're welcome. And I'll give you a power tip. Instead of simply saying you're welcome, you should say, I know you would do the same for me. Because I'm doing 2 things by doing that. One is I'm telling her, I think you're an honorable person. I know you would do the same for me. I'm also telling her, I know you would do the same for me. Which is to put her on record that, hey, I did something for you. I know you would do something for me. That's number 1. Don't do this all the time. But when the person truly is trustworthy, it's a good thing to do. Second power tip on reciprocation is enable the people who owe you something to pay you back. Many people think that, well, yes, I did something for the person. It's not that big a deal. Let her off the hook. Don't worry about it. Don't let her pay me back. Just don't worry about it, okay? You're doing both of yourselves a disservice. You should enable this person to pay you back because she's carrying around all this guilt that she hasn't paid you back. She might want to ask you to do more things. You might be perfectly happy to do more things, but she's hesitant to ask because she already thinks, I already owe him. How can I go deeper in debt? You want her to ask you. Default to yes, as I said before. So you need to relieve the guilt. You need to give her a way to pay you back. And I'll tell you this is something that I practice every day. So I like to play hockey, ice hockey. And ice hockey, if you know, has a very limited window because there's only so much ice. And so ice time is very valuable. And lots of times when you're an adult playing hockey, you have to play late at night. So I love to play hockey. I play hockey 5 times a week. And lots of the games are late at night. And sometimes my wife, who's very active and professional, she has social engagements and professional engagements at night. So we have 4 children, 6, 9, 15, and 17. So theoretically, you might say, well, why can't the 15 and the 17-year-old watch the 6 and the 9-year-old? Well, if you think about it, if I'm not willing to give the 15 and the 17-year-old a Ford Mustang, why would I let them watch the younger kids? Just think about that. Does it make sense, right? So sometimes there's these hockey games at night, and I really want to play it. So after my wife tells me that she can't watch them, I say, well, I'll just call up our neighbor. Our neighbor will watch our 6 and 9-year-old because our neighbor's kids are always at our house. We feed them. They sleep at our house. We take them to games. We do lots of stuff for them. So, I know she feels indebted to us. So whenever this occurs, I tell my wife, okay, I'm going to tell Corey that she has to watch our 6 and 9-year-old because I want to play hockey at night. And my wife says, you can't ask her to watch our kids because you want to play hockey. I mean, that's ridiculous. She's got her own life. She has her own 2 kids to take care of. And I say, no, honey, you don't understand. She probably feels she owes us. I am doing her a favor by asking her to watch our kids, and I can play hockey. It is a win-win situation. Don't be afraid of enabling people to pay you back. The next step is to build an ecosystem, to look at the big picture of your product or service. You want to endure with a lot of people helping you, right? So if you're Apple, you want iPhone developers. If you're Google, you want Android developers. And you want conferences. And you want webinars. And you want VARs and resellers and user groups. You want all these people pulling for you. Pulling for you. Did it fall? No. Pulling for you. They make you endure. They make you endure. You want all these kinds of other entities working with you. The 7th thing is you need to learn to present if you want to enchant people. First thing is customize the introduction. Show something about that you understand the audience, that you appreciate the audience. This is an illustration. This is a picture of an LG washer and dryer. This picture was used when I spoke in Rio de Janeiro. I was in Rio de Janeiro speaking to the LG management of Latin America. After I got there, I figured out that I'm an LG customer. So what I should have done is I should have had a picture of my washer and dryer and open up the speech with the picture of the washer and dryer saying, hey, I love your washer and dryer. I love what you do. Now let me tell you about innovation, or let me tell you about enchantment. But I was too stupid to put two and two together, so I was already in Rio when I figured out that I really wanted a picture. So I sent a text message to my two boys. You know, the two boys, I don't want them to drive the car. So I sent a text message basically telling them, go downstairs with the iPhone 4 that I bought you. You know, let's have a little reciprocation here. Go downstairs, take a picture of the washer and dryer, send it to me. And I was only hours from speaking. So, about an hour goes by and I still get no pictures. So I sent a text message to my older son named Nick. So to Nick Kawasaki, I send him the part in the green saying, did you get my text messages? He sends me a response that said Noah, his younger brother, said he got the text messages and he sent the pictures. Can you get us LG TVs? And you see my answer there. Because there's reciprocation and there's stupidity. Okay? So this is an example of customizing the introduction. You're speaking to LG, show that you use an LG washer and dryer. I use an LG washer and dryer. I bought the LG washer because it has a steam cycle. I've never used that steam cycle. But I just thought, when I read the specs, you could steam your stuff. I love that. So customize the introduction. You saw me customize this introduction, right? I was with the Guard. I was at Wagamama. I was in the London Eye. Customize the introduction. Show that, I love London. I'm not some schmuck American who just zips in here and gives a shock and awe and leaves. Show that you appreciate the country, So I'll show you more pictures that I've used to customize introductions. I was in Moscow, and wow, Russians have big balls. I was in Scotland, where they tried to make me partake in this thing called haggis, which I don't know how people eat that. And then, my name is Kawasaki, so I was in Mumbai, and I'll show you a picture of two sacred cows here. And the expression of that, you can't see it because of the screen, but this woman here, she's just cracking up. If you could see the expression on her face, like, what is this dumbass American doing, taking a picture with this cow? Unbelievable. So these are actual pictures that I've used to introduce speeches in Russia or in Mumbai or in Scotland. Customize the introduction. Best way to captivate the audience. Second, sell your dream. Sell your dream. If you're Steve Jobs, you do not stand up in front of an audience and hold up an iPhone and say, hey, I got an iPhone. It is $188 worth of parts. We manufacture this in China. Yes, at that company, lots of people commit suicide, but don't worry about it. And if you're in America, we're going to stick you with this 2-year contract with the worst data network in the world, AT&T. That's not how he positions an iPhone, okay? He positions an iPhone as his dream of coolness, this dream of, there's an app for that. He positions it as coolness, completeness, flexibility, power, diciness. He sells a dream. Sell your dream. Talk about parts. Don't talk about labor. Don't talk about cost of goods sold. Nothing like that. Sell your dream. What dream does your product or service deliver? And the third point of a great pitch is the 10-20-30 rule of PowerPoint. Okay? It's Guy Kawasaki rule. 10 slides. The optimal number of slides in a PowerPoint presentation is 10. Now, some of you mathematically oriented wise asses may be out there thinking, Guy, you're saying use 10 slides. You use about 40 so far. It's true. You may wonder why. Okay? Several reasons. One, you're not me. I can use 40 slides. Secondly, it's because I can make 40. Thank you. It's because I can make 40 seem like 10. Most people make 10 seem like 40. Okay? Second reason is I like to use a lot of pictures, as you saw. So I can't just do a point, click, bullet, click, bullet. I like to use a lot of pictures. Next rule, you should be able to give those 10 slides in 20 minutes. This audience is exempt from this rule. I'll tell you why. Because 95% of the audiences I speak to, they're using Windows laptops. They need 40 minutes to make it work with the projector. You guys are 95% Macintosh. You have a whole hour. God bless you. Use the whole hour. Most people don't have a full hour when you add in the time that it takes to make that projector work. Third rule is use of 30-point font. Optimal font size is 30 points. By the way, you with the iPhone, you don't need to take pictures of this because I'll provide a PDF. So if you're trying to record the slides, I'm going to make it much easier for you.
Send it to my wife because she's got a presentation at the moment.
Speaking of, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I'm going to, once again, go off the path here. So lots of people ask me to critique their presentations because they think that, I have nothing better to do for an hour. Really, this is a true story. So I came up with this idea. I call it the Guy Kawasaki 2020 plan. And the 2020 plan is, if you send me proof that you bought 20 copies of Enchantment, you can send me up a PowerPoint presentation of up to 20 slides, and I will critique every slide for you. So if you want to take advantage of that, just buy 20 books tonight, and I'll critique your presentation. But you have to certify that you're not a wimp, and you can take really brutally honest feedback, because that's what's going to come back. So anyway, if you want to buy 20 books and your wife wants feedback. So anyway, 30-point font. The reason why you use a 30-point font is that it makes you put very little text on your slides. It forces you to know your presentation. You cannot read your presentation because there's not enough to read. Right? I'm using a 60-point font in most of this presentation. And if you use an 8, 10, or 12-point font, what you're going to do is you're going to read your presentation. And if you read your presentation, you'll lose your audience because the audience is going to say, this bozo is reading the slide verbatim. Most people can read silently to themselves faster than you can read orally. So you will always be behind the audience. If you find this rule too dogmatic, I'll give you a rule of thumb. Figure out who the oldest person is in your audience, divide his or her age by 2. So you're pitching to 50, 60-year-old people? 60 divided by 2 is 30. Now, VCs are getting younger, right? That's true. Someday you may pitch a 16-year-old VC. God bless you. Use the 8-point font at that point. Until that day, 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30 points. Eighth thing is how to use technology to enchant people. First of all, most important step, remove the speed bumps. This is CAPTCHA. The purpose of CAPTCHA is to reduce the number of registered users you have. Okay? So, the first word is Holber. The second word is what? What language is it even? Is it Farsi? Is it Ghanese? What language? I don't know. Ghanaian. Ghanaian? Is that the word? Whatever. That word. Is it, katakana? What is it? It's actually Hebrew. Now, how many of you have a Hebrew keyboard? You do? Oh, okay, so one of you. So that's all. That's why it cuts down on the number of registered users you have. And believe it or not, irony of ironies. Do you know what Hebrew word this is? Shit, what kind of, you got the Hebrew keyboard, you don't know what word? This is the Hebrew word for, hindrance. Seriously, I'm not making this up because I gave this speech and somebody came up and goes, that's the Hebrew word for hindrance, guy. I mean, what a perfect word. Absolutely. It's like speed bump in Hebrew. What a great example. So is there any place on your software, is there any place on your website, that you have a speed bump? Are you providing a sample download that you can use of your software, and then when people register, you have 60-character registration thing, and of the 60 characters, many of them are ones, I's, zeros, and O's, and nobody can tell the difference between a 0 and an O. A 0 and an O and an I and a 1. Are you doing that? Are you giving people free accounts, but you're asking them to provide 60 fields of personal information because, you think you're eHarmony? Do you have speed bumps in your technology? Remove the speed bumps. Secondly, in your social media interactions, essentially, you should always be providing these 3 kinds of things: information, insights, or assistance. Not your cat rolled over. Not the line at Starbucks is long. Information, insights, or assistance. You want to be enchanting online? provide these three kinds of things. And the last thing is some rules of thumb for the rules of engagement. You should engage fast within 24 to 48 hours. It is a goal of mine to answer every email I have in under 48 hours. I do not succeed at this. Like right now I have 550 emails to answer. But it's a goal. And I tell you, I cannot emphasize this more. If you did nothing else in technology but answer your email quickly, you'll make a lot of friends. I cannot tell you how many people say, I never expected a response from you. I'm just amazed. And it really, really is quite an enchanting thing to answer your email quickly, or your directs, or your ads in Twitter. Of course, arguably, I have to say that sometimes I answer people's email and they send me an email back and say, I never expected an answer from you. My thinking is, well, why did I respond? Because if you didn't expect an answer, anyway, don't go. Second thing is, remember when I said plant many seeds? Well, in technology, it means you have to engage many people. If Lonely Boy 15 writes to you, write back. He might not be from the BBC. Write back anyway. You never know what Lonely Boy 15 might do for you. And the third thing is, you have to engage often, not when all your other work is done. Engagement, indeed, enchantment, is something you do as core to your functionality, not something you do when all the rest of your business is done. Next thing is how to enchant your boss. You enchant your boss very simply. When your boss asks you to do something, you drop everything and you do that. It's not pleasant. It may not even be optimal, but I'm telling you, this is the best way to enchant your boss. For those of you who are married and are men, listen, I'll give you something, maybe you're not worried about the Botox and the plastic surgery for your eyes. I'll give you something that might save even more money and prevent what we call a divorce. When your wife asks you to do something, if you want to enchant your wife, just drop everything and do what your wife asks. You don't have to buy her flowers. You don't have to buy her candy. Just when she asks you to do something, drop everything and do it. You will enchant your wife. Second thing is prototype fast. Your boss asks you to deliver a PowerPoint presentation in 3 days. In 3 hours, show up with just a text version of it. Show the outline. Just say, okay, you asked me to do this. Here's a prototype. Am I on the right track? A, you'll impress your boss. Wow, this person is really on top of it. Dropped everything and got right to my assignment. Secondly, you increase very significantly the probability that you will do what she asks because you have a prototype. You didn't wait till the last moment. You got it to her right away. This is the outline that I gave the graphic designer of this presentation. So I gave her this text outline with some sample pictures, and I said, here, make it beautiful. And I did not do this the day before I needed it. I did it immediately. The last thing is deliver bad news early. When something is going wrong, you need to deliver bad news early. You should never surprise your boss with bad news. And even better than delivering bad news early is deliver bad news early with solution. The 10th thing is how to enchant someone who works for you. It's called a map. It's inspired by Daniel Pink, who wrote a book called Drive, which explains this. First of all, you want to enchant someone who works for you? Explain how working for you will help her or him master new skills. You will become a better person because you work for us, because you work for me. I will enable you to improve your skill set, to master new skills. You'll be working autonomously. I'm not going to micromanage you. I'm not going to be breathing down your neck. And you'll be working at a higher purpose, not just to make a buck. So the reason why you work for me is because you will improve your skills. You'll be working independently, and we work on a higher purpose here. We're making the world a better place. You do this, you will enchant your employee. Second thing, you empower action. You say to your employee, because I think you're smart, because I think you understand what we want to do, because you are a good person who's likable and trustworthy, let's enchant the customer. I empower you to make a decision. I give you the power to make a decision. And the third way to enchant an employee is to suck it up. I'm not sure that translates well here. Suck it up means you never ask an employee to do something that you yourself would not do. You're a good boss, you suck it up. There's a guy in America called Mike Rowe. He has a show called Dirty Jobs. Is that Does that run here? Never heard of this, all right? So Dirty Jobs is a TV show where Micro, he goes all around the United States and he does dirty jobs. He goes to the paint factory, which you see here. He goes and he cleans out sewers. He goes with the pest exterminators and he goes underneath the houses and he gets the dead rats out and he changes power lines at the top of the mountains in Colorado. So he does all these dirty jobs just to show people like me, you know, how other people, what they do to make our lives easy. Micro is a great example of he's willing to suck it up. He's willing to go underneath that house and get the dead rats, okay? You need to think like Micro. Never ask your employee to do something that you yourself would not do. Your employee needs to know that you are willing to suck it up. You will do what is necessary. It's very enchanting for a boss. Now, finishing presentation here. This is a picture of what the cover was going to be. I crowdsourced the cover in a design contest, and I love this cover. Blue Morpho on red background. Blue Morpho was a stock photo. It's a butterfly from South America. I showed this to my publisher. My publisher said, I don't think so. My publisher said, too feminine, too woo-woo, too self-help, too crystals, too pyramid, too Boulder, Colorado, Marin County, too feminine. No real man would buy a book with a blue Morpho on a red cover, okay? So I was heartbroken, but I sucked it up and I said, what can I do? I still like the butterfly idea. Stands for metamorphosis, right? Enchanting. I love the butterfly idea. Then I figured out I'm Japanese. It's this thing called origami. Honestly, I didn't know jack about origami. But I got Google, type in origami butterfly, and through a series of searches, I come up with this butterfly. This butterfly is called the Alexander Swallowtail, made by a guy named Michael LaFosse. Any of you into origami in this room? What do you guys do in London? Jeez. You guys all have Macintoshes. That's good. Okay, so this is an Alexander Swallowtail, made by a guy named Michael LaFosse. And I saw this butterfly. I said, wow, that is a cool butterfly. You can't say that that's too feminine, too woo-woo, too self-help. It's a cool butterfly. But it's already somebody's name on it. So I convinced Michael LaFosse to make this butterfly. This is the butterfly, which is this butterfly. So this butterfly is called the Kawasaki Swallowtail. Not the Alexander Swallowtail, Kawasaki Swallowtail. Now ask yourself, have you ever heard of the Zuckerberg Swallowtail? Huh? The Branson Swallowtail, the Oracle Buttertail, the Jobs Butterfly, the Gates Swallowtail, the Ballmer Swallowtail. No, this is the Kawasaki Swallowtail. Cross one more thing off the bucket list. I have a butterfly named after me. The last slide here, actually I have two slides. This is a picture of the cover, and I just want you to know that if you buy a book, I'm going to sign it on the cover, unless you tell me not to. And I'll tell you why I sign it on the cover. First, it's much faster to sign on the cover, honestly, just to tell you the truth, to be transparent, as they say. Secondly, to me, the reason why you ask for an autograph is because you want to show off to your friends and family that you got an autograph, right? So why put it on the inside? You want to show it off. You want to be someplace at a Starbucks or, Pret a Manger, or whatever it's called, and you want to read that book and you want to say, wow, you got an autograph. So it's not going to help you if it's on the inside. You put it on the cover. Third thing I need to tell you about this cover is my writing progressively gets getting worse, and it's going to get worse through the evening. So what I sign is resisting you is futile, because I want to tell you that I want you to have something positive on that sign, like enchanting, that you're an enchanting person, because I want people who see you reading the book say, oh, you're irresistible. It's a good thing. Like how many books can do that for you, right? And I'm telling you what that says is because my previous book, The Art of the Start, I always used to sign that book Kick Butt. And what happened one day is this woman came up to me and said, Guy, why did you sign my book Nice Butt? Now, how she could confuse nice with kick, I do not know. But I'll tell you something, because I am a quick-witted person, I said to her, it's because it's true. So now I feel like this moral obligation to tell you I'm signing this so that she could have said, why did you sign my book Lick Butt? It would have been worse, right? So anyway, it says, resisting you is futile. And truly the last slide is, the person who made my slide presentation has a website in case you like my presentation. It's Ana FXFZ, good woman from Brazil. And if you want copies of this presentation, if you just drop an email to gina@garage.com, we'll be happy to send you a PDF of this presentation. And so now we're taking a break, right? Right. So that essentially is the top 10 ways to become an enchanting person. And really, if you, excuse me here, hello. Have you heard of Tom Peters? Oh. How many of you have not heard of Tom Peters? Wow. So you've never heard of the book In Search of Excellence? How many of you know what In Search of Excellence and Tom Peters is? Wow, I got to find a new example now. Okay, so Tom Peters is a guy who wrote a book called In Search of Excellence. Huge seller. And what In Search of Excellence did more than just sell a lot of books is it changed people's expectations of a company. Because it went from, a company should be decent and profitable and survive to a company should be excellent. Okay, so it changed people's expectation. So what I want my book to do, Enchantment, is to change people's expectations, to take people from thinking that the most you can do is engage people to you can now enchant people. Because when you enchant people, you delight people. It is beyond engagement. It is about delightfulness. It is about mutually beneficial. It is about long-term, all that good stuff. And so I want you to remember that I want you to enchant people, not just engage people. And that is how to enchant people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.